So first came Brass and Soul, which was really centered around the expression through performance. If you remember how I explained this, it was me playing the trumpet in a set of music, specifically the first half of the concert, the first set of music. It was electric, it was fresh, it had this beautiful aromatic nature to it. It was just very attention grabbing.
Second Soul specifically represented the magnetic connection between two souls. It was the second set of music. In the story, I enter the scene, but it really represents connection between any two people or any muse.
And I think the cool thing about Second Soul that we really intended was that scent-wise, it picks up where Brass and Soul leaves off. They're literally continuous with one another. And now we have Soul Elixir, which represents the hours after the music ended. Brass and Soul and Second Soul were really important fragrances for us because they're very emotional fragrances. They represent an introduction to me and what I do as far as playing music and how that played a role with the two of us coming together in terms of Second Soul and how it literally changed both of our lives and changed the trajectory of our lives and what we would then create.
We always felt that there was a missing piece in the narrative. There was a missing scene. We had the beginning of the performance. We had when we initially saw each other, but we never had that moment of connection and deepening. Soul Elixir is that missing scene.
So picture this. The performance is over. Basically, everyone has already left the club. All that's left is chairs askew, maybe some candles that are still smoking or smoldering, and two people. And again, in Second Soul, we noticed each other. There is that magnetic recognition, as Grace said, but we never talked about actually meeting each other, getting to actually connect. So the two of us meet. We finally have the chance to sit down privately and talk and get to know one another. It's really about what is left behind when everything else is gone. That is what Soul Elixir represents.
Because of that, the fragrance naturally goes to a deeper, warmer, richer place. That's what's happening in the conversation. That's what's happening in the scene. Everything else has faded, but what's left is the most potent part, the most concentrated sense of the scent.
So we really just wanted to paint this arc, obviously in terms of the story, but also in terms of the scent between the different fragrances. Brass and Soul represented this contrast, the duality of cold, fresh metal being the trumpet that transitions and warms into this kind of, again, just warmer, more grounded, but still not technically complete because the story is not over yet. It really just sets up what is to come. To put it simply, Second Soul just makes it darker. It takes it to a darker, more sensual place. Again, it's that noticing of one another, the emotions that are taking place, the unspoken words that are happening in the eye contact and the maybe the increase in heart rate and a little bit more sweat on the brow. And I'm trying to stay concentrated while I play, but she's in the back and I just can't help but see her.
It really is the warming up of what happens with Brass and Soul. Again, it's the second set. People are settling in, taking off their jackets, ordering another beverage. And that's really what we wanted the energy of Second Soul to really be that. I feel like with Soul Elixir, it really is what the name paints. It is this magical through line, taking the best of both of Brass and Soul and Second Soul and really crystallizing it into this most beautiful, deep, rich, concentrated, and intimate form of the fragrance.
Honestly, it is, as Grace said, like the most concentrated elements of the DNA presented for you. It is, again, what's left behind after the distillation is complete, the residue. That is Soul Elixir.
I think what we can say confidently is that if you have found a home with either Brass and Soul or Second Soul, if you've resonated with that scent DNA, if it's been something that you've loved, that you've come back to, that you've found to be something to be a favorite in your collection, then you are going to love Soul Elixir because we really feel like it is a true masterpiece. Wow.
Right. I couldn't help it. I had to spray it as she was talking. I'm like, I need to smell this thing. Yeah, what are you getting as it's filling the air?
To me, it's rich, it's sensual, it's deep, it's spicy. We had already said that, Second Soul kind of took Brass and Soul where it left off and took it even deeper. I honestly feel like Soul Elixir is doing that in the same way, in some ways with the dry down of Second Soul, where it takes like that warmth the amberiness, almost the dustiness, that really intense spiciness.
Yeah.
And it's just expanding that so that you live there for longer. And that's just, that is the elixir of this experience.
So well put. Yeah, it does carry some brass and soul with it. You can get the whispers of that. It definitely picks up where Second Soul leaves off with the smokiness, with the suede, some tobaccos in there. You do get that boozy rum and that spice. Oh my gosh. Cardamom, I think, really speaks in this one more than I remember it speaking in some of the previous ones, for sure. And it does bring a little tiny bit of its cooling nature that it can bring, but this is a warm scent. This is warm and deep. This is something that's just going to like sit with you. It's going to like lower the lights around you and make it more dim. Like it's going to raise the air temperature. I don't know. It's just something really just consuming about Soul Elixir.
It's less about projection and sparkle and more about warmth and depth and texture and closeness.
Definitely. And, you know, we decided to concentrate it to 30%, which is the most concentrated fragrance that we have ever put out. A lot of people might see that number and be like, oh my gosh, 30% equals just utter beast mode, just paint peeling glory. And I don't think you really want that out of a high quality fragrance. And because this is a high quality fragrance, it doesn't scream like that. Now it is undeniable and it will stay with you longer than you need it to, but it's going to have a classiness to it. Again, imagine two people sitting close to each other, getting to know each other, connecting. You don't need to scream at them. They're right next to you. They will hear you. They will feel you. That's what Soul Elixir is all about.
But what you will have is radiation. And that's what we wanted. It will encircle you. Sure. It's going to be that magic around that energy that you're looking for. That's what we wanted to create, because that moment of connection, we all can relate to that. There's something so magical about getting to know someone for the first time. And it's that elixir. It's what we chase, you know, and it's such a high. And the Soul Elixir is that magic.
You know, one thing that we do need to address is Seamless Soul. Some people might be wondering, well, how exactly does Seamless Soul fit into this arc? Again, as we said, we skipped from Second Soul to Seamless Soul. We did leave a gap, which Soul Elixir fills as far as how the story goes. And Seamless Soul is, again, it's us coming together to create this seamless bond of souls, which also represents us bringing our son into the world. And this fragrance really does celebrate that. And in terms of the olfactory, we wanted it to combine the two of us, our personalities, our strengths, you know, the things that naturally radiate from us as individuals, and they are different things, and we put them together to create a scent that is essentially both of us in a bottle, but also, again, our new son, who is his own new being, his own new soul. That's what Seamless Soul is all about. So Seamless Soul could not exist if it were not for this continuum that we have outlined.
It isn't the same DNA, as you know,
Exactly.
if you follow the story and if you have, you know, purchased a bottle or part of that community that got to experience Seamless Soul. In that way, it's separated from the scene that we've been painting and the scent DNA from Brass and Soul, Second Soul, and now Soul Elixir.
When you first spray Soul Elixir, if you know Brass and Soul and or Second Soul, you will definitely be reminded of those. Now, if you don't know those fragrances, then you are in for a completely new olfactory experience, which is very exciting. If you loved those two fragrances, Brass and Soul, Second Soul, you're going to absolutely love this. If you never got a chance to experience them, this is your chance to get an idea, in fact, more than an idea of what those fragrances represented, and then some. Now, to give you a little bit of what to expect with Soul Elixir, which is always hard to do on camera, when you first spray it on, you are going to be just greeted with a blast of a little bit of contrast, but definitely more dark heavy than bright light, so to speak. You get a lot of this tobacco and spice and wood and just like warm, slightly smoky richness. Again, very much like Second Soul, where it leaves off, a little bit of that suede in there as well. It just, again, becomes all consuming. It just kind of wraps you up right away. And as it dries down, you get more of the woodiness. You get some cypress in there. Again, just the deeper, leatherier, woodier notes start to take over. It still stays fairly sweet, but not too sweet, not like delectable or dessert-like or anything like that. It still feels gentlemanly to me. It still feels very classy, but this time around, there's just something a little bit more mysterious about it, perhaps a little bit more enigmatic, but also just more intimate. There's an intimacy, truly the deepest experience that I think we've been able to offer to date. So I wanted to briefly talk about what you see here on this box. Now, if you're familiar with Brass and Soul, this will look very familiar. It is essentially the Brass and Soul box. And the reason why we decided to do that, we thought it'd be really cool to kind of just circle back to the beginning, to really pay homage to the start of this entire narrative, of this explosion that has led to this trajectory, to this continuum. But we wanted to give it new treatment, obviously with the new name, Soul Elixir, with this red, more crimson type of metallic feel that it has. That's supposed to represent just more deeper, richer experience that you can expect. Something that feels more vibrant, but on the low end. Also, for those of you music nerds, if you're not a music nerd, you might look at the back and be like, oh, it looks like music. That's great. But for those of you who care, whether or not you know music, the melody on the back here is not what we had on the previous boxes for Brass and Soul and Second Soul. This melody is an original song of mine, like the previous one was, and it's called Road to Somewhere. And I do think it just kind of naturally plays in to this narrative. I mean, if we just go back to Brass and Soul, I had no idea what was ahead of me as far as this performance and where it would lead and who it would lead me to, and ultimately like where my life would go. I had no idea where it was going. It was going somewhere, but ultimately going somewhere completely life-changing. So there's going to be a link down below where you can reserve your bottle for a special pre-sale price, after which the price is going to go up. So if you want to get rewarded for checking it out early, there's going to be a great incentive to do so. And as usual, once it's gone, it's gone. It's meant to be something special. It's going to exist for a limited time, and then it's gone with the wind. And we just want to say a huge thank you to ZAHAROFF. This would not be possible without the folks at ZAHAROFF, without George ZAHAROFF, his vision, his generosity, and just the platform that he's created with his brand. So go ahead and let us know down in the comments, do you plan on checking out Soul Elixir? If you're seeing this video a little bit in the future and you already have your bottle, do let us know what you think of it. We'd love to know. Regardless, we are so excited for you to get your nose on this. If you're truly interested in it, do not wait.
I do want to emphasize that, because I know that we mean what we say. This is a limited run. It will not be back. And for those of you that have experienced Brass and Soul and Second Soul, how special they truly are. I think it's the pinnacle. I think it's the peak of what we've created. And I know you're going to love it. You're not going to want to miss out. And so if you want a bottle, I would say jump on it, get the pre-sale pricing. And we're just so grateful for you and for this community, for being with us on this amazing soul journey with this storyline. And thank you again for your incredible support.